Hi folks, I'm just about to upload a video. I think I'm going to title it Why the Past Matters, and something to do with how the moment of the now is not all there is, if you will. Which sounds a bit controversial because we are told so many times that now is all that is and now that is all that matters. And again, maybe I don't understand the English of that, but I found that to be very, what do you call it when something is a fallacy? It's a fallacy, if you ask me. I think from a moment of meditation and perspective, right, the moment of the now is really being able to view things on a timeless level, if you will, to be out of time, okay? And that's a whole nother discussion in a sense, but what does it mean to be out of time? What does it mean to be out of the narrative and the story of our lives, of the Aaron, of the James, of the Andy, of the Dans, of the whoever you may be, the Eloise, and wherever it's to be out of that story and that narrative, and to see it from an observing point of view, from a much higher perspective and a much bigger, from a much higher perspective, on almost like a global level sometimes. Like you can almost say, like even in the moment of meditation and contemplation, in a way that you can even go back into, let's say, your own. Like for myself, I'm Jewish, so I can go back into sort of the early 19th century and see how my grandparents were sort of conditioned or programmed in the world that they were raised into. Try and read that energy in a way and see that what was happening, and how my grandparents who experienced World War II and what was going on then, and also the fact that they didn't have so much technology. I'm watching this documentary called Genius, which I can highly recommend. It's on Albert Einstein and Picasso and all these other cool individuals. And it's interesting when I look back then on how their psyche and psychology, it's obviously made now, but without technology, without so much advertising, without the modernism in a way, to see how they are as individuals in that time and how different we are today and things like that. So what I'm saying is that my moments of perspective, of contemplation, or meditation, I look back at the energy of that time and what was going on. Was it peace? Was there order? Was there love? Was there stability? Whatever it is, was there understanding, etc. And and then how that affected from my grandparents to my parents, and then to me, and also from my religion. Right, I was born, raised Jewish, and I was told certain things that I'm very different to other people in an exclusive way because I'm Jewish, right? And so what I'm saying is that in meditation I can contemplate and observe a point of view. I'll take myself out of everything, and I look at Aaron sort of on this timeline, if you will. And the timeline is obviously going way back. And you can go far back as you wish, right? And you can take it back as a human being on this planet, and see the evolutionary sort of stages on this planet, and see sort of your arrival on the scene, where you arrived, at what time, at what era you arrived in, what were the circumstances, what were the technological advances which play a huge role, what were the academic advances, what was going on at that time, because that will make you kind of a very different person. Even the country that you were born to, the language that you speak, a lot of the culture that you're born to. I mean, I know I'm from South Africa, but I know the Cape Townians, people from Cape Town, are very different thinkers, and being from Johannesburg people. In fact, I can tell you, a lot of the time, if you took 5 people and put them in a room, and you could tell me that there's somewhere from Cape Town, and somewhere from Durban, and somewhere from Johannesburg, okay, let's say 10 people, I pretty much think with good accuracy I could tell you, with just watching the interactions, who's from which city. Okay, and I'm sure you, wherever you are in your own world, whether you're in Australia, and you can tell from people from Sydney or Perth, where they're from. You can tell in America which state that the person might be from, not just from their accent, but from their way, their demeanor, from the way that they think, whatever it is, etc. Right? And so you can see all of that detail. And so what I'm saying, again, I'm saying many things here, but in the moment of meditation, in a way of contemplation, you actually envisioning the whole storyline. And it started a long time ago, and it's been in process for a very long time. Okay, and I feel what his meditation and contemplation is about is finding yourself in the narrative, finding yourself in the story. The story is very important. Your story is very significant. You know, I was listening to Mental Kratom. I don't know what his name's Jake, and he was doing a video here how he was saying how minute we really are. You know, he was saying that, I think he was watching Carl Sagan's video about the pale blue dot, and how if you keep on expanding out, like from the world into other sort of star systems and galaxies and nebulas, whatever it is, you wouldn't even see planet Earth, what the size of it and how insignificant it really is. You know, and then you can say, he was talking about how insignificant we are, you know, in a way. And I was saying, yes, maybe to a degree, but your story is of the most greatest importance of any other story that there has ever been and will ever be. That's the way it's designed. And if you tell me I'm wrong, well then go to a 5-year-old child and tell them that their life doesn't matter. Or even tell them that because their ice cream fell on the floor and that they're throwing a temper tantrum that they shouldn't, you know, or like, you know, man up or something, or don't be a baby, or, you know, show them disappointment or whatever it is at 5 years old, that they're just a little speck, a mere nothing, that they'll live for a blink of an eye and they're gone, and history will never remember them nor care for them. That is true, okay, but we're sensitive about that, because something does matter, something is very special, alright? Our story here in the flesh is temporary, is so finite, it's ridiculous, it's actually, it's you know, it's like, it's ridiculous. But on a spiritual and conscious level, on a soul level, it means the absolute universe. And it wouldn't mean the absolute universe. If it means the absolute universe because that's how we were designed, that's how special each one of us really are. Right, in the bigger picture, how unique we really are, how important and valuable we really are. On a spiritual and whatever level, we are so significant, like, you know, we can't even conceptualize it. So to look at life as if we are a mere speck and we are just we come from dust and we return to dust is nihilism. It's rubbish, if you ask me. And it's a dangerous narrative to have. It really is. Okay, it really is. It's also a dangerous narrative to have that you were born to the parents that you were, to make them proud and to follow your culture and follow your religion, and that's what you were here to do, you know, whatever is, and serve a God who's probably the only reason why you serve him or her or it is because if you don't, they'll punish you and you'll rot in hell and heaven, and you'll be dismembered and whatever it is, you know, in the furnaces of hell, you know, in whatever, etc. It's a pathetic story. It's a ridiculous narrative to have, if you will. So what I'm saying is that even though the narrative is Maya, for the time being, it's very, very important. It's very significant. It's just like the body. You might say, well, the body will perish and die, so what relevance does it have? So it has absolute imperative relevance, the body. You can't just abuse it. Otherwise, you're in trouble. I mean, obviously, you know. So it is a vehicle, and the narrative, your story, is a vehicle, right? It is a tool, if you will, but a very necessary one. There's no question about it, and necessary to you. And it's up to you how valuable and how precious your story is. And this is the point I wanted to talk about. I mean, in regards to the fact that the past matters and the future matters. And the past matters in the way from healing, to understand who you are. I'm meshing this quite a few things together here, because really I wanted to talk about, like, again, how, like, we don't realize, I mean, I spoke about this in the video, but we don't realize how disenfranchised we really have been. We don't realize a lot of the time what a Truman Show world we've been born into, and what we've been put, you know, what we've experienced, what we've come through, and what we are going through. You know, if we, for one moment, let's say individually, had to be picked up by some UFO and taken off to another planet where people, you know, you spend a year there and they were living off the planet in peace and harmony, right? I mean, we can get into the whole narrative, a real beautiful fairy tale, right? Where no children were traumatized unnecessarily, whatever it is, how all parents were present, how the relationship between men and women were not highly competitive, how they're healthy, they were living completely sustainable, completely off the planet, right? I'm saying of the earth that they lived. Everything was just in peace, in love, in harmony, and there was obviously aging, there was sickness and things like that, but there was still love, there was still support, there was still honesty, there was still trust, there was still integrity, there was still the sacredness, there was ceremonies. It was just beautiful, and no animal was ever really hurt unintentionally, and whatever it is, okay? And you saw the child being brought up, supported, loved, inspired, empowered, and then you spent a year there with these people, and then you came back to your planet Earth, and then you sat for a while and you started looking at things, looking around the way that we live today. Okay? We live today, and then you start thinking about your past, and you'll start thinking about, well, what happened to me? Like, how was I raised? Okay, what was I taught about myself, or how was I taught to think about the world? Was I taught that the world is a safe, beautiful, and wonderful place, very adventurous you were inspired to investigate it and discover it, internally and externally, the external, planet and the internal universe, if you will. Were you inspired to do that? Were you brought up by like I'm saying, your perspective? Were you taught that the world is a harsh and terrible place full of war and victims and crime and jealousy and envy and destruction and chaos and murder and mayhem and and satanic sort of worshippers and whatever you want to That's it. How many of us view the world? What is our perspective of the world that we have today? For most people, and this matters. Your perspective matters on how you look at the world and how you see life. Do you see it as a threat? Do you see it as a dangerous place? I mean, potentially, yes, it is, and it is a threat to a certain degree, and that is important to have and not be in denial about. But is it not maybe an opportunity, as Terence McKenna mentions? Is it not to be seen as, let's just not even say it as an adventure to sort of, what's it called, sugarcoat it, but let's just say as an opportunity for what? Opportunity for growth, an opportunity for strength, an opportunity to reconnect, to help others, or whatever it is. Yes, it is. It's dismal, folks. There's no question about it. So what I'm saying is about what attitude were you brought up with to see the world, right? Were you, in what way? And which way were you conditioned? And so what I'm saying is, you got to look at this, because now was made up by the past. If you're an alcoholic now, it's got to do with with your past. Why did you start drinking in the first place? If you're an overachiever now, right? What are you needing? Why do you need to validate yourself? Be validated by other people. What is missing? Why don't you have your own self-validation that you're overachieving in the way that it's actually doing you harm? Where does that come from? Where does it come from? It comes from your past, right? Like I said, so you've been engineered, you've been conditioned, your perspective has been enforced and influenced from your past. You have been taught the relationship that you have with yourself, whether it's benign, whether it's loving, or whether it's destructive. Where do you think it comes from? It comes from your past. Okay? So there's no merit in simply sitting in the now and meditating on nothing. Okay? And just watching thought go by. That is fine. But that's been highlighted as the saving grace, and I think that's wrong. I think it's spiritual bypassing, if you ask me, if you're doing it too much. Right? I think it's you're doing it too much. I say that the point of contemplation and meditation and walking in nature is to reflect on how you're feeling, on your temperaments, on your shortcomings, on that which essentially you do not like about yourself, that which you do not trust about yourself. To reflect on the relationship with yourself, why you do the things that you do which you are not happy about, that cause you pain, right? That cause you insecurity, that causes you fear, to contemplate on that and ask yourself, where does it come from? Where does it stem from? Where does it originate from? Go back into the past. That's what I'm saying. Again, you can't know your story You know, if you don't know the introduction, if you don't know how it started off in the first place, and you can go as far back as when, you know, we were cavemen. You can go back into how, you know, human beings were living with nature, and how now we're not living with nature, and you can contemplate all of this. There's so much to be contemplated about. It is ridiculous. You do not need a smartphone to be chatting to all your friends on WhatsApp, or keeping update with everybody's Facebook statuses, or who's loading what picture up on Instagram or something like that, or the latest show on Netflix. You don't need that's a lot of time. It's a waste of time, folks. It's a waste of time. You're already having to sit with a job that takes up most of your time. For most of us, you're already in relationships that are, you know, already sapping a lot of your, you know, energy from many levels. You know, you're already having to pay the bills, you're already having to do all the chores. It's like we're busy enough. We're busy enough. We have enough entertainment. We have enough distraction. I mean, okay, further and above our chores and responsibilities. But to sit in contemplation, there's so much material there. And it's always refreshing, because you know what, sometimes you can think about things in your past, and sometimes it just comes up on its own. Sometimes you have a dream and you're inspired to think about something that you couldn't remember, you know, that you forgot about completely. Or your imagination, you're sitting and you let your imagination go out. I don't know, try and remember what you were wearing on your first day of school, and see how that links up to other sort of imagery and other sort of feelings and other sort of experiences that you had at the time. Just go down that rabbit hole and let yourself, you know, get lost in that, in a way. Imagine in a way your situation, your scenario. Because what I'm saying is that draw on the feeling that you have now. Draw on the, how much time have I got left here? Draw on the feeling that you have now. Shucks, I'm running out of time. To be inspired, I'm saying, like, let's say for example, if you're feeling sad, right? If you look back into your past, you'll probably bring up moments that will resonate and reflect on you where you were also feeling sad, or when you're feeling lonely now. Draw back on times where you were feeling lonely as well. They will probably come up. Your past could probably mirror, I mean, that I'm thinking about, it's very subconscious, but your past would probably mirror, you know, and bring up other times where you felt the same way that you do now. Helpless, despaired, depressed, lonely, anxious, or whatever. Draw back and see in the past, you know, when else you've had those other experiences. And I'll end off on this. You know, Picasso, I'm watching a documentary on him. He's saying that you can see he draws from his memory. Okay, so when he's drawing like sort of a very chaotic scene, right, of a world war situation, he thinks about the bombing, he thinks about the civilians, the human beings that were just getting slaughtered and gunned down, and he thinks about that, and you can see him, and you can see the emotion in him, and as the emotion comes out, he starts to paint and draw. So he draws back on his on the emotion. He draws back on the when he lost his sister, you know, when he was, I think, 8 years old, and his sister died when she was 4 years old. He draws back on that memory of them lowering the coffin into the grave. And as soon as he feels that, he draws something, and he transmutes that. He translates that emotion, that past experience, into art. And that's what we are doing. We are all our own Picassos in that way. We are drawing back on something, whether it be joy, whether it be happy. Right, whether it be good, whether it be not so good, whatever it be, maybe a devastating, traumatic, maybe be uplifting or inspiring, disempowering or empowering, and you draw back on that, and then your art flows forward, you know, and then the artist, you know, and you design your way forward, you know, and you manifest it, and you create that, and you bring it into being and existence, you know. You're the alchemist in a way, but you're turning the past into I would say a more richer and grander and truer future, more real, if you know what I mean. This is an interesting idea, that we're creating it, and so we walk into a much richer existence, a much richer future, much more in touch, you know, real, because we're drawing back on our own experiences and bringing that forth and manifesting that into creation, if you will. I don't know if that makes sense, folks, but I'm going to be cut off any second now, so we'll chat soon. Take care.